Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be episode number 17 of the Championship Roundup. So in today's video, guys, we're of course going to be rounding up all of this weekend's action, which did take place in the Championship, and going over each game individually. Now, this weekend in the Championship, we had quite a lot of drama go on this weekend, actually. We now have a new team which is bottom of the Championship, and the table as a whole has shaped up quite differently now. So as always, guys, I'll be very interested to know as to what did you make of your team's performance this weekend. Let me know down below, and let me know what you're feeling about your season so far in general, as we are now way into December and really coming up to some fixture congestion coming in. So got quite a few big games coming up soon as well. And also let me know in the comments down below, what did you think was the goal of the weekend, and what did you think was the result of the weekend? I'll be revealing what I thought they were at the end of the video, but we've got a few contenders for that one this week. So just before we do get into any of the games, guys, I will include your guys' comments on screen now. So if any of you guys did successfully manage to predict any of this weekend's scorelines, I will include your comment on screen now. So fair play to everyone who did get one correct this week. FIFA actually had a much better game week than I did this week in terms of predicting the scorelines. FIFA actually got two of theirs right this week, whereas I didn't get any of mine. So our first game to go ahead and talk over was the Friday night game taking place between Sheffield Wednesday and Wolves. Now, this was quite an interesting encounter, actually, of course, with Wolves currently sat top of the Championship and Sheffield Wednesday severely underachieving. I thought that Wolves would really go ahead and put quite a few goals past this Sheffield Wednesday side, but that wasn't the case in this one. And in all fairness to Wednesday, I didn't think they were that bad in this one, you know. Off the ball, I thought that they were working incredibly hard, and when you take into consideration how many injuries this Wednesday side currently has got, they didn't do too badly against this Wolves side to quite limit them really to quite a few chances. But it doesn't take Wolves a lot to go ahead and get in on goal, and it was probably one of their only real moments of quality which did lead to their goal. A fantastic finish from Ruben Neves from outside the box. He had way too much space really, but the power he got behind it just to glide it into the bottom corner with pinpoint accuracy was an absolutely fantastic finish from him. But apart from that, Wolves didn't look brilliant in this one, I didn't think, but in fairness to them, you know, it's always a sign of a good team when you can still grind out a victory even when you're not playing that well. Sheffield Wednesday did have chances with players like Adam Reach being a bright spot for them, but apart from that, they still didn't look great going forward. So Wednesday, they're not in the greatest of positions at the moment. They slipped further down the Championship, and more pressure is coming under Carlos now. And talking about people who are currently under pressure, the same could be said for Steve Cottrell at Birmingham City, as they have now slipped to the bottom of the Championship after a 2-1 home defeat against QPR. Now, this is actually QPR's first away victory since, I think, around February or something earlier in the year. So fair play to QPR for finally managing to get that monkey off their back. And there was actually 2 goals from their defender, Jack Robinson, which managed to secure that victory in the end. In terms of a spectacle for this one, it wasn't the greatest of games really. There weren't too many chances overall in the grand scheme of things. I thought that QPR had a couple of bright spots in their team. I think it was Luke Freeman who set up the second goal. He seemed to have a couple of nice touches in this one, but apart from that, there wasn't all too much quality. You know, the Birmingham goal came from an awful mistake from the QPR goalkeeper Alex Smithies. But one thing I have to ask Birmingham fans is, where do you see the future of this Birmingham side going at the moment? Because now it's only 11 goals scored so far this season, sat at the bottom of the Championship as well, and things just don't look to be improving there at all. And then we do move on to a massive game at the bottom of the Championship, taking place between Bolton and Burton Albion, where in the end it was the away side, Burton, who went ahead and got a massive 1-0 victory over Bolton. Now, this has got to be a contender for the result of the weekend, of course. Coming into this weekend in the Championship, Burton was sat at the bottom of the Championship, and had they lost this game to Bolton, they really could have been cut adrift at the bottom of the table. But getting this victory puts them right back up there in the mix, and really does drag Bolton really back down into the relegation zone now, as if they were able to go ahead and pick up a victory in this one, they could have seen a little bit of a gap starting to form between them and the bottom 4 now. What I did find interesting after the game was seeing a few Bolton fans who are quite unhappy at the moment, actually, with their manager Parkinson. So I'd be interested to hear a couple of Bolton fans' opinions on what you think of that at the moment. It was Lloyd Dyer who scored the only goal of the match with sort of a volley that went on, took a couple of bounces, then managed to deceive the keeper and go in. Then after that, the one thing you won't want to do against this Burton side is let them score first, because when Burton do get the first goal, they are very good at grinding out the rest of the game, and they managed to do that in this one, you know. The second half, Bolton pretty much dominated it, but even so, they couldn't really create too many clear-cut chances, and that's just a testament to how well Burton did in this one. And our next game did actually finish as a goalless 0-0 draw, which did come as a little bit of a surprise to me, I'm not going to lie about that. That was the game taking place between Brentford and Barnsley. Now, for the majority of this season, we've seen Brentford tear apart teams going forward, so fair play to Barnsley for actually limiting that attack that they were coming up against, and a lot of that has to be accredited to Adam Davis, who was, of course, the Barnsley keeper for this one. Made some pretty vital saves for Barnsley, and now Barnsley are only sat 4 points above the relegation zone at the moment, and of course, they didn't win this match. That does mean that this winless streak is increasing by another week, but the one thing I will say, and I suppose the positive that they can take from it, is they've stopped that consecutive losing streak and maybe now have a bit more of a platform to build on, you know. The thing that was Barnsley's undoing really for the past few weeks was individual errors at the back, which were creeping into their game and costing them all the points in the end. So hopefully for them, they've managed to eradicate them now, and now they can start pushing forward and looking for a few more opportunities. You know, they had a couple of them in this match, but Brentford probably had the better of the chances. Then our next game saw Bristol City continue their impressive run at the moment with a 2-1 home victory over Nottingham Forest. Now, Bristol City had a really comfortable first half in this one, actually. Forest really didn't seem to be up to the challenge in the first half. That, of course, led to Bristol City going ahead and grabbing those 2 goals. And I thought that Forest did improve slightly after the break at half-time. You know, they brought on Ben Osborne, I think, to play at left-back. That gave them a bit more impetus going forward, a bit more energy into the team, which they seem to be lacking in that first half. And it was actually a fantastic goal by Kieran Dowell, who did get them back into the game at 2-1. And after that, they had a couple of chances, but really, I thought Bristol City were looking quite comfortable for this one. And Bristol City at the moment, of course, still sat 3rd in the Championship. And what I want to know from you guys is, do you think that Bristol City have a chance at automatic promotion this season? Of course, currently sat in 3rd. They're quite comfortably sat in the playoffs. I think they're about 7 or 8 points within the playoffs at the moment and away from 7th place. So do you think they have a chance of catching Cardiff or maybe even Wolves? Let me know down below. And our next game is between 2 of the promotion chasers this season. That was, of course, Derby County and Aston Villa, and in the end it was a pretty comfortable home victory for Derby County, winning by 2-0. Now, Aston Villa gifted the first goal to Derby, really. It was a horrendous back pass by Glenn Whelan. He played it straight into the path of Mate Vidra, who then squared it for Vyman to make it 1-0 Derby, and then Derby managed to wrap it up in the later stages with a Johnny Russell goal. But overall, I was quite disappointed by Villa's performance in this one, really. You know, 2 promotion chasers, I expected them to be both going out at it, but if it wasn't for Villa's keeper, Sam Johnson, again, Derby probably could have had more than the 2 goals that they eventually managed to get in this one, you know. And Aston Villa going forward lately, especially, I've been very disappointed with, and they just looked a little bit lacking in creativity and looking a bit passive going forward, really. But one thing I will say about Villa going forward is they have a striker on the bench in Scott Hogan, who is no doubt, in my mind, capable of scoring goals when you play to his strengths, you know. And I don't know why that Bruce seems to have signed a striker who doesn't fit into his system at all, you know. If you looked at how clinical he was for Brentford last season when that team was playing to his strengths, he's still that player, but Aston Villa just aren't utilising him to the best of their abilities at the moment. But in fairness to Derby, fantastic victory for them. And our next game saw Ipswich Town go ahead and pick up all 3 points with a 2-0 home victory over Reading. Now, Ipswich are keeping within the playoff chase this season, you know. They're steadily going about their business, and this was another fantastic victory for them, where they managed to get 2 goals, both coming from Connolly and then Garner. You know, the Garner goal coming from a corner, you know, if there's one one player you can't afford to let them lose their man is Joe Garner inside the box with how clinical he can be. But Ipswich in the end, it was a pretty comfortable victory, you know, for all the possession that Reading did have in this game. They only managed to get one shot on target, which was quite disappointing really. You know, they had a lot of the ball in this one, but they just weren't very penetrating, which could be seen for quite a few of their performances so far this season, Reading. I feel like they have a good formula at Reading, but they're still lacking 2 or 3 players which they could do with in January to really push this Reading side onto the next level. And our next game was between Leeds United and Norwich City, where in the end it was a 1-0 home victory for Leeds. Now this could be a pretty massive victory in their season actually, as now they go to up to 7th in the Championship and only 1 point off the playoffs, which is of course where Leeds will want to be come the end of the season. Now Norwich, I thought, would have been pretty disappointed to give away the goal that they did in this one. Came from a Pontus Jansson header from a set piece, and that seems to be a bit of an issue that Norwich have had this season, you know, dealing with set pieces and crosses coming into the box. Maybe that's something that they need to address, but going forward I feel like Norwich would have been a little bit disheartened really not to get a goal from this one. You know, they certainly had enough chances to get one. You know, I thought that Alex Pritchard was looking pretty deadly for them, just couldn't find that final bit of quality to go ahead and beat the Leeds keeper, who did make some decent saves in this one, to be fair to him. And Oliveira had a few chances as well. Maddison was there or thereabouts, but in the end they just couldn't find that killer pass in the end, or killer ball, to go ahead and really get in on goal. And Leeds did have a couple of other chances as well to go ahead and make it 2-0, but in the end the 1 goal was enough for them. And of course things aren't looking brilliant for Norwich at the moment. Of course they did get that victory last week, and I know a lot of their fans would have been hoping that that would have been a platform for them to start building on, but really it looks like they may be back to square one now as they slip further down the Championship. Then our next game saw Millwall go ahead and claim all 3 points with a 2-1 home victory over Middlesbrough. Now Middlesbrough, of course, things just don't seem to be looking very rosy for them at the moment. This defeat now sees them 5 points off the playoff places and located 10th in the Championship. Now, if you would have said that to me at the start of the season, I probably wouldn't have believed you, you know. With this Middlesbrough squad, it's just baffling to see how much they are actually underachieving by, but it's been a pattern of their season so far. When you let this Middlesbrough side, you know, play the football they want to, and you don't really get in their faces and you sit off them a little bit, then yeah, they will tear you apart. They're a decent team at doing that, but if you put them under any sort of pressure, then the cracks will start to appear, and that was blatantly obvious to see in this game here today. You know, the second goal that Millwall scored from, I think it was George Saville, the defending from Middlesbrough players was absolutely shambolic. They must have had at least 5 opportunities to go ahead and win the ball back, but all of their defenders just seemed so out of place and so passive in this game. They just gifted the Millwall the 2 goals they had in this one, but fair play to Millwall, you know, they more than took advantage of that. They didn't sit back in this one, they took the game to Middlesbrough and deserved all 3 points in the end. Stuart Dowling did manage to get a goal back for Borough with a decent long-ranging effort, but in the end that was never going to be enough for them, and the pressure continues to mount on Gary Monk now. Then our next game did see my club Preston North then go ahead and pick up all 3 points with a 1-0 home victory over Sheffield United. Now this victory now only sees Preston 2 points outside the playoffs, which is a fantastic thing to see. You know, we did have that little bit of a collapse about a month ago when we had our injury crisis at the back, but since then we have seemed to turn things around and have been playing some really nice football lately actually. In the first half of this one, you know, Preston were looking quite far off the pace, and Sheffield United probably did have the better of that first half in terms of some of the chances and the possession they had, but in the second half Alex Neil then changed the shape we were actually playing with and we looked so much better. The players that ran the show for Preston in this one were both Ben Pearson and Callum Robinson. Robinson going forward was absolutely immense, especially in the second half. He eventually managed to get the assist for the Jordan Hugo goal, but his overall play is just so much better than it was at the start of the season, and you can really see him as a player who's playing with confidence at the moment. And Ben Pearson for Preston absolutely ran the show in the midfield for us. You know, there was no ball in this one that he didn't intercept, and he really did make life hard for Sheffield United. Now, in terms of Sheffield United, it was a very disappointing performance from them, you know. I think it was blatantly obvious to see that they were missing some of their key midfielders in this one, you know, the likes of Fleck, Duffy and Cooch, you know. They didn't manage to get any service really towards Clark or Sharp in this one, and in the end, it was a deserved victory for Preston. And our next game saw Sunderland finally go ahead and get a victory at home. It's been almost a year since Sunderland got their last victory at the Stadium of Light, but finally that curse has been lifted with a 1-0 home victory over Fulham. And it wasn't even a fluky victory either. They fully deserved this victory, as, you know, there were times in this game where I thought it's not going to be Sunderland's day. You know, they were having chance after chance, and if it wasn't for Bettinelli in net for Fulham, Sunderland definitely would have gone on and scored more than one goal in this one. You know, he made one terrific save from, I think it was a header by Vaughan, who inside the 6-yard box, and somehow managed to get a reaction save to tip it onto the crossbar. But apart from that, Fulham, a very disappointing performance from them. You know, defensively they were letting Sunderland get in on them, and going forward as well, they weren't looking their usual selves in that one. But fair play to Sunderland, a deserved victory which sees them out of the bottom 3 now. And their final game to go ahead and talk over was Cardiff's 1-0 home victory over Hull City. Now in the end, Cardiff just keep on grinding out these results, and their home form this season really does have to be admired. You know, considering the team that Neil Warnock inherited at Cardiff, for them to be currently sat in second in the Championship, I don't think enough plaudits has been given to Neil Warnock with the job that he's been able to do with this Cardiff side on a fairly limited budget as well. They've not gone ahead and splashed out millions, this Cardiff side, so fair play to them for going ahead and doing that. But in the end, it was Sol Bamba with the only goal of the game, and in terms of the game as a whole, as a spectacle, it wasn't brilliant. I think that's fair to say. You know, the whole, since Nigel Atkins has come in, I feel like their defence has improved. I think their shape overall has improved, and their confidence seems to be a bit higher. But going forward in this one, they weren't playing with that same tenacity that we've come to expect from Hull in times this season. And I know that they still do have quite a few players that are injured, but even so, they weren't really testing Cardiff as much as I'd like to see, and in the end it probably was a deserved victory. So guys, that will wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup. So in terms of my result of the weekend, I'm just going to have to go ahead and give it to Sunderland for finally going ahead and picking up a home victory. Sunderland get my result of the weekend. Then in terms of my goal of the weekend, quite a few contenders for this one, but myself personally, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Ruben Neves for his goal against Sheffield Wednesday. It was just such a classy finish, such pinpoint accuracy as well. From outside the box, he gets my goal of the weekend. So guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup. So if you guys did go on to enjoy the video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do subscribe for some regular Championship content. As well as that, guys, make sure you do leave a comment in the comments down below as to what you did make of your team's performance this weekend. But apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So thank you so much for watching. But other than that, guys, I'll see you all in the next one.